Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the 2Q FY22 earnings conference call of Infibeam Avenues Limited, hosted by Incred Equities. As a reminder, all participants will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Sri Shankar. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ritika. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome the management, welcome the participants for the 2Q FY22 results call. We have with us, representing the company, Mr. Vishal Mehta, the Managing Director, Mr. Vishwas Patel, the Executive Director, Mr. Srikanth Rajagopalan, the President, Mr. Hiren Padhya, the CFO, and Mr. Purvesh Parekh, Head of Investor Relations. I now hand over the call to for his opening, and later we'll follow it up with question and answer session. Vishal Mehta, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you, and a very warm welcome to everyone to our FY22 second quarter earnings call. We are very happy to announce that Infibeam Avenues had the strongest quarterly performance ever. We have outperformed on several parameters, be it payments, including bill payments, marketplace platforms where we serve clients, enterprise customers. To strengthen and expand our technology offering and to capture the upside in the fintech space faster, Infibeam Avenues is planning to raise capital, primary capital. We have never raised money in this scale post our IPO in 2016, and since then we have continued to build a profitable and a scalable business. The cash generated quarter after quarter from operations has been used to fuel our growth. And we see ample of opportunities for us. We have built a very unique business model with very strong moats that drive both growth and profitability for us. As we build a superior ecosystem of payments, from payments acquiring to issuing, domestic and international remittances, neobanking, lending, and cards, build on a global payment network as well as the payment network internationally, we need to apply a larger investment to these businesses as we aim to be one of the top fintech companies in the country. In this regard, we are looking forward to raising capital through primary mode as growth capital. With this, I hand over the call to our CFO to quickly update us on the quarterly performance. Over to Hiren. Hiren, all yours.
Good evening, everybody. India offers huge headroom for growth in digital transactions. The digital payments market is poised for a strong growth, and mobile payments is expected to grow at a CAGR of 45% for the next 5 years to touch $3 trillion. COVID has accelerated the pace of digitization after demonetization. This is early days for India. We expect high growth to continue in the sector. This decade will be dominated by the fintechs. It is important to capture the underlying growth in this sector. And we have built a strong, scalable, and sustainable business to capture the upside to the fullest. Infibeam in the last few quarters has been focusing on growing its top line and at the same time ensuring profitability. We have proven time and again through our business model and our business strategies that growth can be achieved with profits. The company in this quarter has accelerated growth and achieved a record total processing volume of rupees 64,300 crore, that is approximately $9 billion, and is at the run rate of $40 billion. Gross revenue was up 44% on quarter-on-quarter basis and 109% year-on-year basis to rupees 311 crore, that is $42 million. EBITDA margin excluding our subsidiary GoPayment was 60%. GoPayment is contribution positive. Company's profits from continuing operations grew 33% quarter-on-quarter and 55% year-over-year. We will continue to push the limits in all the businesses to keep achieving higher TPV and hence higher revenue, and at the same time ensuring profits. We achieved high growth without significantly compromising on the take rates, as we added few large merchants and offered preferential take rates to them. Our India payments and platforms business are predominantly part of standalone accounts, contributing over 90% of the total revenue, where our EBITDA margin has actually grown to 63% in Q2 versus 61% in Q1. We have outperformed in our core business. We are debt-free now, have a cash conversion ratio of over 100%, consistently generate positive free cash flow, and in standalone business, we continue to generate higher ROE year after year. Our performance in the quarter has been exemplary, and we have shared it in detail in our earnings presentation and our press release. Now I request the moderator to now open the floor for question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Unnati Bhavekar from KRChoksey. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. You've been giving this split of net revenues between transaction revenue and other operating revenue. And then I believe the transaction process-based revenue represent the net payment gateway and platform-based services revenue that accrues to Infibeam. I just wanted to understand what is this other net operating revenue that it comprises of. Does it or will include all new business revenue such as your AI-based credit platform, new banking services, then GoPayment services and software as a services revenue? So that is my first question. And second is, by when do we expect the other net operating revenue to become a sizable portion of the total revenue? Or do we continue to believe that the transaction-based revenue will be the dominant driver over medium to long term?
Yeah, you are right. You are absolutely correct. This is Srikanth. The other operating revenue is basically we have services revenues, we have derivative works revenues, we have support AMC's VAS-based revenues and so on and so forth. So these are all non-transaction based, and this is also linear actually to our models, and it is not linear to our people, but it is actually business model is actually a growing model. And we have our existing large enterprise account signed up, and for which the revenue will get accrued actually to the company. And with respect to the, in order to educate the investors actually more from our business model perspective, we made out this chart saying that, what is going to be a net take rates driven revenue in terms of transaction based, both for our payment business and for our platform business, and of course non-transaction based revenues. And both the revenues are our two spin-off of our business model, and they are in line with our industry patterns and also in line with our nature of our business.
We've been hearing this that over a period of time, as the value-added services will become the sizable portion of the business, it will kind of lift up the margins and it will make it more consistent. So that is the reason this question. So do we believe that this non-transaction based revenue will become a sizable portion in the near future, or will it take its own time, or it will remain at the same kind of a proportion?
Right now, at the moment that we are focusing the TPV based revenues, and TPV based revenues more the TPV, because as an organization as a business, we are fine-tuned actually for the TPV increase, and throughput is basically a measure of success. We always believe that higher the TPV, higher the revenues, and so on. Therefore, that having said that, we will not discount the non-transaction based revenues. That will also grow. Maybe the rate of growth in non-transaction based revenues like subscriptions, license, and setup fees and AMCs and stuff like that may not be as similar to the transaction based revenue. But having said that, that will also grow.
Okay. And I've been trying to compare your market share, the RBI given data set. So is it fair to say that you've actually kind of grown the market share, while as of fiscal year 21, the digital payment transaction value has actually fallen for the entire country? But then in your case, actually, it has been growing and you've been actually capturing the market share. So is it fair to compare your TPV with the RBI given data?
To a larger extent, what you're saying is right. And, I think while on one side we don't look at the market size and market, share and so on and so forth as a measure of our performance, but at the end of the day, that is a deriving factor. But we are focusing actually on our own business and our own TPVs and so on and so forth. And I think over a period of time that, that is a resultant factor of market share will automatically a byproduct result that will come. But as of now, yes, we are growing actually exemplarily very, very well. And our progression is actually, on a geometric side and not on an arithmetic side.
Okay. But as you said that you've been trying to gain the corporate clients for bulk payments and so on, and you've been offering them a better rate. So will it not continue to affect the take rates going forward in the immediate future?
That is the model of our business, and that is part and parcel of our business model. And as a B2B model, actually, that that is something which we will have to really do that. But as Vishal mentioned in the speech, actually, that we are not including TPV of B2B actually in our TPV calculations. But in terms of net take rates, yes, because it's a nature of the business, and it will continue to happen that way.
Do you plan to kind of report it as well, the bulk payments that you do for the corporate in the total TPV?
There may be a need actually. It's a competitive info and competitive data, and as and when there is a need, and we will definitely do that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants to ask a question, please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Deval Chan, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
My question is to Mr. Vishal Mehta. He has told regarding that he will be raising capital. I want to know how much capital we are raising, and from equity or debt, from which mode we are raising the capital.
Sure. So when we talked about raising of capital, we are a debt-free company. In fact, we have cash and cash equivalents in a few hundred crores. So whatever conversation and commentary we provided in terms of capital raise is equity capital, not debt capital. Srikanth, you want to take over in terms of what we will be utilizing the capital for? Yeah.
Sure. Deval, the primary capital, as we talked about earlier, that this is the growth capital, and this is not required for our working capitals and so on. This is basically required to accelerate our growth in terms of technology upgradation for our enterprise payment platforms, technology upgradation for our GEM platform, marketplace platform, new country expansion. But for the COVID, probably we would have started definitely one more country by this time. But I think that is we are a little bit lag behind that. And, once the COVID situation settle down, then we will be definitely starting country expansion actually, so for that growth capital. And, lending actually is a huge business. And we did not visualize that, we will touch $1 billion by the end of this fiscal. And I think we may be touching actually $1 billion as a secured lending itself in this business, in this fiscal, by the end of this fiscal. So therefore, sorry?
How much we are planning to raise the equity capital? Some 200.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So all put together that, we have not fixed any specific number actually in mind. And because we are really trying to really attract some marquee investors who will be strategically and financially actually beneficial to the company. So therefore, we are fairly flexible actually on that. But depending upon the investors, actually that that kind of a numbers may marginally vary here and there. But having said that, this is going to be used actually for our growth of the company.
So it will be, or the equity shares will be issued to the new investors.
It will be a primary capital, and by and large, actually, it will be by way of strategic investors and financial investors who is best actually for the company's expansions and company's growth actually.
Okay. Can I have a second question?
Sure.
Do we have a neo banking license, or is there any procedure we are going on the process of applying it?
Say it again. I couldn't understand the question.
Do we have neo banking license? Because we have started neo banking services, right?
Yes. So let me take this, Srikanth.
Sure.
So there is no license required for neo banking. Neo banking acts as a wrapper over the existing banking interfaces.
Okay.
So it's like an aggregator of all bank screens. It does not require a payment license.
Okay. Got it.
Or a neo banking license.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Mehta from Deep Financial. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is Manav Vijay. So first of all, sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
you are.
Okay, thank you very much. So, sir, I have one question regarding the net take rate that we have. So now in this quarter, if my calculation is correct, we have come down to around 6 basis points compared to, I believe, 7 basis points last quarter and close to maybe 8 basis points last year. Now, considering and obviously we continues to be profitable. Now, considering the hyper competition that we are having, plus the capital that we intend to raise, so the aim is to grow profitably continuously, or let's say would you want to maybe let's say take the profitability slightly later, but actually grow disproportionately over, let's say over next 1 to 2 years, or let's say maybe for next few years?
I will take this first question, then possibly Vishwas can handle the second one. You are absolutely correct, Mala Vijay Bhai, that the net take rates have come down by 0.6 actually bits in terms of net take rates, but there is a specific reason for that. Last quarter it was 6.6 and this quarter is 6 actually, and fundamentally that the same quarter of last year it was the same 6.6. So by and large, if you really look at it, actually our volumes have actually gone up 1x over and possibly 2x over. For the entire FY21, our TPV value was 19 billion, and today we are at the run rate of actually 40 billion on an annualized basis. So despite that, 1x growth, 110% growth, I think we are able to really manage the net take rate drop actually only by 0.6 bits actually because of the competing reason. On one side that we can stick around to our 7 bips take rates and 6.5 take rates and so on, but probably we may have to really compromise a little bit of actually our TPVs. Therefore, that is the balance one has to really take in the entire business so that we don't lose that kind of an opportunity. And value is a game, volume is a game, and we believe that by retaining more and more customers and more merchant addition, about 1 million additions in a span of 6 months is not a joke actually, Malabai. So therefore, that has been done actually with a little bit of compromise on the take rates. And we also believe that, the travel sector is not fully opened actually in the country. So the moment travel sector is completely opened in the country, there may be a slight moderate actually tractions on the net take rates as well. So therefore, the strategy is to really grow the business in terms of overall business size, so that the profitability will be the derived factor actually.
Sir,
Okay. So taking on from what Srikanth said, Vishwas here. So taking on from what Srikanth said is that the reason of us going aggressive is that the numbers of the new merchant additions has already been told. 10 lakh merchants in less than 180 days is what we have been able to onboard. And I think that merchant addition and other things by little bit compromise on the take rate, which anyway the main sectors like entertainment and travel numbers will come in good numbers in this quarter, as you are aware, as people travel more and go out more. So that way the take rate will also increase better for this quarter. But having said that, the new merchant addition, so the main idea here is that the money that we are making from a payments business has to be supplemented with something major. And that's where the lending piece comes in, and many other value-added services that we are planning for corporates and SMEs is where we are going to earn. So the whole idea here is to go aggressive, get in the merchants, tie them up, and then offer VAT, lending, and all the other stuff. So that's where the real monetization will come in. That's where the real money that will come in over and above the take rate that we are talking about, which we are already doing at scale, will improve further. Madam.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is the line of Arvind Datta, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I have 2 questions. The first question is that in terms of the market share in the TPV business, how do we compare to other players in the payment gateway business? Are we among the top 3 players, and what is the difference between the industry leader and us? And my second question is there any update on the new umbrella entity license, and when is the RBI likely to announce the licenses to new players?
Vishwas, would you like to take that first question?
Okay, so the TPV business, which other new startups are claiming and many others, is a big question mark. While we are a listed entity, so we only discuss the real electronic payments that have moved from a customer's bank account into our account and then to the merchant. What some of the competitors are also doing is that bulk payout that they are doing by just uploading a file, like say if Dream 11 winners are there after a match, and you just process that file to do the payouts to all winners, they are counting all that as their processing volume, which is not the case. So same thing, that's why when Vishal said, in the B2B business, the neo-banking business, when we do the process, when we do the payouts to all the vendors or to all these kind of stuff, we don't count them as processing volumes. So the TPV word is very, what you call, very lame, because we are the only listed entity in the country today. The others are startups, so even an internal transfer from one account to that account, or like even if you are doing the merchant settlements, they will count that as the processing volumes. So TPV, no one knows for sure what's the real metrics, how they count it. We are counting a clear-cut payments that moves from the bank, from the customer's bank account to our nodal bank account to the merchants. So that's real processing. But having said that, TPV-wise, different numbers are floating. Definitely now with PayU BillDesk being one of the biggest players. So there is a lot of, then we are the second, we believe. But then there are a lot of new startups like Razorpay and Cashfree also claiming. And since they are not a listed entity and not in the open domain, how they calculate their transactions, while it's just a bulk payout also, as they carry count that as transactions or others, is a question mark. So we firmly believe we are the number 2 players there in the market as far as the TPV is concerned. But as the profitability is concerned, yeah, we are the only listed fintech in the country and a profitable one at that.
Right.
Regarding NUE, basically that, yes, as you all know that...
as NUE license is concerned, yes, there are 4 or 5 parties, consortiums that have applied. We have participated in a consortium with Reliance Industries and 2 other foreign majors. To this, RBI is looking at the application was the last update that we got. So maybe RBI will be scrutinizing the applications and maybe form a committee and other things going forward. But as of now, what we know is that they are just scrutinizing the applications. That's the status from RBI.
Thank you and best wishes for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Hemal, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have a very quick question regarding this quarter. As you're saying that in your new banking, the merchant, as you explained, as you're getting the merchants onboarded and then cross-selling, one of the things that you're doing is merchant lending out there. This quarter, can you please, maybe there in the presentation, I can't find it, how much lending did we do to the merchants and what was the potential revenue from it?
Purvesh, would you like to give the data?
Yeah.
So this quarter, we've done secured lending to the extent of 156 million. That's 3 times what we've done in the quarter 1. And we've given a guidance of 1 billion by the time we exit the financial year FY22. This particular segment, we're not reporting it separately in terms of revenue, but this secured lending is growing month on month for us, and the traction is increasingly there from the merchant side.
Yeah.
Okay.
In addition to what Purvesh has said, that we started this lending piece actually in September 2020 practically from zero level, and end of the last year, that is March 21, we ended with $100 million actually of a loan size, and then we guided the market that we will do by the end of this fiscal 200 million, which is 2x. And based on our Q1 and Q2 performance, our present run rate is about roughly 50 million per month actually. This would mean that we are already doing 600 million on an annualized basis, which is 3x of our guidance number. So therefore, we believe that considering all our workings and considering the relationship with the merchants and so on, by the end of this fiscal year, we will be little crossing actually $1 billion. That is what we said in the speech earlier, that we will do actually 5x of our guidance number. And we are energized actually with this kind of a growth. And this is one of the growth driver actually for the company from the bottom line perspective.
Thank you, sir. Just try to understand. So how do you, as I understood, this was where you're paying the merchant faster than the settlement or clearing and settlement would happen. This is one way of getting the money faster, and for that many number of days, you generate through your fintech partners or banking partners where you generate some incremental revenue out of it. Is that the model out here? I mean, am I correct?
That's right. Basically, that under regulation, depending upon the merchants, we have T plus X number of days, which is a permissible days for settlement. But in this kind of a case, that we may do it actually T plus 0. So there will be a faster acceleration of settlement, and therefore that for that we will charge some bips actually extra from the merchants, and our cost of capital is practically I would say very, very minuscule. So therefore that would be the profit driver for the company.
So for us to think of as a metric to, I know the volumes are definitely important, but these are very low short-term lending, high volume churn. That's the one way to think about it, right? So what would be a potential objective, like in next 2 or 3 years, given the number of merchant base you have, given their volumes, what penetration and what volume size would you be aiming for, given what you know from your internal data?
Okay, I will give you a little bit of data. So we are right now doing 800 crore per day, let's say, or 600 crore per day, let's say, in terms of processing. So what we are doing actually for $1 billion means 25 crore per day. So 25 crore per day resulting into $1 billion loan size. So out of our capability of 600 million, so 600 crore per day to 225 crore per day. So that is basically the growth opportunity in this piece.
Got it. So you're saying merchants are liking it a lot and are willing to pay extra for it. Is
Absolutely.
What I should
Absolutely.
do.
Why would they say no to that? Because they are getting cash on the day one, right? So.
Correct. Oh, thank you, sir. This is my question. That's it. Thank you.
Having said that, that is just one part of the lending. If you see, there is a whole slide where we have put in on the entire new lending mechanism, the platform with the AI-based thing that will, this kind of express lending will metaphor into many other things that is there, be it invoice factoring and other things. So we already, if you see our presentation, there's already a whole slide to it. So it will go further to that, to merchant invoice discounting, to other things in the coming days. So not at liberty to say more, but the entire platform will metaphor to not just this express lending, but many other things also.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Understood.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Supratim Basu from Americorp Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I was just looking at the numbers and trying to make sense of some of these changes that have happened QOQ. So two comments that I have, and then if I could get your explanation on that. One is that at a gross revenue level, the take rate seems to have gone up from 42 bips to 48 bips from 1Q to 2Q. But if I were to look at gross revenue this quarter, second quarter, versus gross revenue last quarter, and EBITDA of this quarter versus EBITDA of last quarter, it looks like all the incremental margins that incremental revenues that you have accrued this quarter has come at half the margin of the previous quarter. So it looks like the take rate, net take rate on the incremental revenues has gone down pretty dramatically. So, could you explain this disconnect, please?
Yeah. Super thing. Let me just take this question. So if you would have really seen that, our merchant size is 2.4 million, and our present merchant size is 3 million. Is 1 million more in the last 6 months. And that means there is an attrition of, 4 lakh merchants actually. So the take rates effect is also there actually on that 4 lakhs merchant. And having said that, in this particular quarter, especially post-COVID, considering the competition reason, we are actually, have to really balance the take rates at the gross level and also at the net level, considering the fact that, there is a bulk payments, there is a the new customers are at the different pricing altogether. But at the same time, we need to really manage the overall net take rates. We should not really drop it actually significantly below the marks and water levels and so on. So we have, in a way, drawn up a water level actually, and we manage the system actually based on that. And however, the additions of customers have come at the cost of little bit of compromise actually on our pricing, as Vishal mentioned actually a few minutes earlier. And I think the trend, our strong belief is that the hospitality segment and travel segment, where we make actually significant traction in terms of gross rates and also net take rates, and that has not been, even today, it has not been fully open, both in the international sector's point of view and also from the India sector's point of view. So therefore, once it gets open, and even some of the post-COVID situation is not actually fully over. So once some of the sectors are getting actually over, we believe that these take rates will go for a not upwards actually. Having said that, what has really happened in the last quarter and also in the quarter prior to the last quarter is that there are certain sectors where we were very, very weak. For instance, education sectors, we were very weak. But I think this COVID really helped us to really improve the education sectors in terms of our business verticals. So this is actually one of the reasons our education sectors are not actually based on bid based. It is based on fixed fee based. So therefore, that is also another reason why you are seeing actually a little bit of dip in the.
Shrikant, that will explain the variability on the EBITDA side. My first.
No, even net take rates also. Even net take rates also, because that is only at the fixed fee level.
So at the so what I'm seeing is so at the net take rate also, but the question really is this gross revenue that you're reporting, 311 crores. That is your that correlates 1:1 with 64,300 crores of TPV, correct?
Right.
Right. So 311 crores on 64,300 vis-a-vis 216 crores last quarter on something like 50,630 crores, something like that, right?
Right.
So when I look at that, your gross commission, the gross take has actually gone up from 52 bips to 48 bips. So there are two factors that I'm seeing here. One is that actually the payment gateway has been able to charge more on a consolidated basis, or your client mix has actually improved in the TPV. You mentioned travels coming back, hotels are coming back, etc. So I'm assuming that because of that, because their share has gone up, this gross take rate has gone up 42 to 48 bips on a QOQ basis. But the EBITDA numbers have gone completely the other way. That doesn't make sense to me. So it looks like you are collecting more from the merchant, but you are actually paying out more than standard to everybody else within the ecosystem.
The answer is yes and no, Supratim. The another factor which probably we have not maybe articulated in the press release or maybe in the presentation is that the gross revenue includes actually some of the license revenues actually from our platform business. So therefore, on an apple-to-apple basis, in order to determine the real take rates actually on the payment side and on the platform side on the license-based revenue, unless I split the license-based revenues out of my gross revenues, the numbers will dance in a different manner.
So that's what I asked you first, right?
Yeah.
That's what I asked you first, that whether this gross revenue corresponds 1:1 with the TPV.
Well, so that it's subject to license fee. So there is a license fee component, there is an AMS component, there is a support component, and there are certain amount of installation fee component that is also included here in the gross revenue, for which it is not actually translated exactly to the TPV. So that is the reason why the numbers are actually dancing in a different manner. But I can work you through actually on an offline basis actually.
Sure. Okay. No, that's good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. As there are no further questions, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Sri Shankar for the closing comments. Mr. Sri Shankar, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Maybe Purvesh, you can give a closing comment.
Thank you everybody for being a part of this call, and we look forward to seeing you in the next quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
On behalf of InCred Equities, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.